Come one, come all, wrestling nerds unite. It is episode 57 of the Matt Stats Show, and your trio of wrestling goofballs and geeks are here with you. Jason Bryant, Glenn Gormley, and Kevin Hazard. We are into the month of July. By the time you watch this, we would have celebrated the nation's 250th birthday. We're recording prior to, and Kevin, you came prepared. You came prepared as we were doing this before the 4th. As you're watching this, I'm currently in Fargo, but you know, we can time shift this stuff. So he's got Firecracker, and it definitely clears up the domage that we've got going on. So he came prepared with the Matt Stats apparel. We did this in May with Wrestling Shirt a Day in May. Glenn, you're going with our theme today, which we'll get to in a second, but you are minor league baseballed out. What do you got?
Minor league. I got some Norfolk Tides and some Reading Phillies, Double A Eastern affiliate of Philadelphia Phillies.
Now, behind me, you can't really see this on your screen, but in my speakeasy, I'll lean back here, other than kind of the junk on the chairs, which I usually like to hide from the viewers because this big dome in the way. But I've got some vintage pennants that run along the back of the wall. And those pennants are a mashup of teams from Minnesota to represent the wife's side of this household. And then my favorite teams, and then like old teams from Virginia where I grew up. So right now, of course, the old Virginia Roadsters, which is a tiny pennant. I was their PA announcer. It was women's professional softball. I was their PA announcer for about 2 weeks, my senior year in high school. And then like they had a 6-game homestand through Beach Week after I graduated high school. I'm like, yeah, that ain't going to fly. And I was making $25 a game, and high-level softball in that era of it was a lot of 1-0 games. And I remember one time, me and Dave Fairbank from the Daily Press, he was covering a doubleheader because we got rained out the day before. First game was 13-0. It was 1-0 in 13 innings. Second game was 1-0 in 14 innings. It was like a 14-hour day, and I got $50 for it. I knew right then and there that was probably not the PA job for me. Moving on, we got the Minnesota Vikings because we got the wife's side. The old California Angels because I'm a California Angels fan. The Minnesota Twins got a vintage logo there. The old Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I'm a Bucs fan. Then we got the St. Paul Saints, which is the AAA affiliate of the Minnesota Twins, but this is in their independent league era, back when like Ricky Henderson and John Rocker would come through that league, those leagues back in the day. Then my St. Cloud State Husky hockey, the old Minnesota North Stars. Then on slightly off screen, we're getting to the Minnesota Fighting Saints from the WHA back in the 60s and 70s. The Minnesota Moose from the IHL when the North Stars left before they put the Wild here. You keep going, got the old Hampton Roads Admirals, a team I worked for, 1998 Kelly Cup champions, the late John Brophy, legendary hockey coach and the most foul-mouthed human being ever on the planet. We keep going. We got the Minnesota Kicks, which I think was National North American Soccer League back in the day. Virginia Squires, an old ABA pennant. We turn the corner. The Peninsula Pilots, the old single A affiliate. The Seattle Mariners before Bud Harrelson bought them and moved them to Wilmington, and they became the Wilmington Blue Rocks. Now the Peninsula Pilots are a Coastal Plain Wooden Bat League. Around the corner more, you've got the Hampton Gulls from the Southern Hockey League at the Hampton Coliseum back in the 70s. One of the two instances of the Gulls, there was two versions of them. One was in the late 60s, one was the early 70s. An Orlando Magic from when I was a professional basketball fan. A Minnesota Phillies pennant, which was spelled with an F, for the Women's Basketball League back in the late 1970s, one of the very early professional women's leagues. And then, what do I finish out with over there? Oh, yeah, the Tidewater Tides. So the old T with the waves. So we're talking all sorts of sports today, and minor league baseball is going to be a theme, but I figured as a weirdo sports nut, some of you might like a little pull behind the curtain. So, yeah, I've also got a Minnesota United MLS scarf over the door here. So I've got it decked out up on the ledge. I got a bunch of memorabilia from schools and teams and world championships and stuff. So it is a speakeasy of memorabilia. John Smith and Sergei Beloglazov behind me on the wall, among others. Bruce Baumgartner and Garth Brooks on the wall over here too. So yes, there are minor league pennants all around. So as we've gotten to our off season, this is when we've went through the state of college sports. We've gone through the 3-point takedown. Now, Glenn, what are we getting into today?
Okay, what we're getting into today, this show is basically as a result of some of the William Mary guys giving us some feedback when Kevin and I were in the luxury suite listening to you and Brian Hazard announce. And they were saying what they thought should happen to it, which is basically indicative of what many people are thinking about. So college sports is a unique Americana thing. So we're getting into how this is affecting it all. And I'll start out. You can see there on the screen, why does Rice play Texas, with a picture of President Kennedy there. When President Kennedy was giving a speech at Rice University in 1962, it was about the moon mission and about why we want to go to the moon and why we do tough things. And he ad libbed a line to all the people there. Why does Rice play Texas? Okay. And he meant in football, of course, in Texas. So that's where I got the name of the show from.
My
So,
first question when I was looking over this is I misread it. I said, why does Rice play in Texas? Well, I thought it was a pun on like food or something. No, you're talking about the Rice Owls and Rice Stadium,
yep,
which hosted a couple Super Bowls back in the day. So
correct.
imagine
Correct.
that. A Super
Yeah.
Bowl playing in a college football stadium. Strange.
Yep. Okay. So then, of course, we have our table of contents in this episode if you want to go through in the future. And of course, as we always say, if you're driving, don't look at the screen. Okay.
We have the show notes at
Matt,
madtalkonline.com and nwcaonline.com. And if you're your podcast reader, if you're in the passenger seat, you can click the link and you'll sit there and you pull it up on your phone as you listen. As always, little housekeeping.
Yep. Okay, Matt Stats Show is here to create a library for Mike Moyer and the NWCA. The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect Mike Moyer's opinions of the NWCA, nor do Gorms, Bryant, and Hazard always agree on everything. Okay? Matt Stats is based on numbers and stats, thus it's called Matt Stats. Okay? Okay, go ahead.
Not mad opinions.
Yeah,
All
not
right.
Matt opinion.
We, like we always do, can you just bring us up to date on the number of college teams in college wrestling teams in the different jurisdictions?
Yep, I sure will. The big news right in this month is that Columbia University, coached by Emma Randall, who we're a big fan of, okay, became the first Ivy League team ever to have women's wrestling. And in a show in the past, when we talked about the Ivy splitting off from the EIWA, we were thinking, hey, the Ivies have the biggest endowments anywhere. Okay. They can afford women's wrestling, and hopefully the ball will start rolling where Columbia started that. And also another women's team that was at it, which is the first school to add women's team, which one of the Matt Stats hosts is an alumni of, Keystone added women's wrestling. Former home of Kevin Hazard before he became an Indian at William and Mary. And then we always say how many junior colleges there are in the NJCAA and the 3C2A, which is now the California thing. So there's 144 of those, which is a nice number.
And we had a new program, men's and women's program, going to be added in Texas at the NJCAA level, Hill College in Hillsville. And they haven't officially announced their coach, but it'll be Scott Tischer, who I used to work with at USA Wrestling. He wrestled at Dickinson State back in the day. And what those programs have been doing is the NJCAA has been giving grants to some of these the junior colleges to start wrestling programs. So we saw that Southwestern Community College in Crescent, Iowa, was a recent add-on officially with this grant. And Hill College in Texas, Frank Phillips College, is also adding a junior college in Texas. And as a side note, you want to talk about a state that is prime for junior college development. It is Texas, because it's a football state. We know that, but there are so many athletes in that state that, some of the development. Tervel Delagnev was just inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. He was third in the state of Texas as a senior and went Division II to Nebraska Kearney, developed, became an Olympian, ultimately got an Olympic bronze medal after one of those guys was busted for cheating. Granted, it was, I think, 14 years after the fact or 12 years after the fact. So delayed gratification there, which kind of stinks. But it talks about the potential of guys like Tervel can go, outside of D1. Well, the junior colleges is a great place for development. And as we've talked about, we don't know what that's going to do with our eligibility as far as the NCAA is moving forward. So right now, the NJCAA, as it stands, as we record this in July of 2026, Their eligibility in terms of how it works with the NCAA still up for question. I know there's going to be lawsuits about that because always there's lawyers. So I wanted to give Scott Tischer and Hill College a shout out for starting junior college men's and women's wrestling down in Texas as we move on.
Okay, so like you said earlier, Gorms, this is a stats show. How about some examples of where numbers, when you're doing a statistical analysis, and the numbers surprise people?
All right, sure, Kevin. I was driving back from Gloucester, Virginia, Sunday, the weekend of the U.S. Golf Open, and a guy by the name of Keith Mitchell shot even par in all 4 rounds, becoming the first person in the 126-year history of the U.S. Open to do that. About 9,000 players have played in all 4 rounds. And I remember listening to that and all the announcers saying it's crazy, it's never happened before. And I started thinking, I'm not so sure it's as crazy as you think. Okay. He didn't shoot par or better. He shot exactly par. So to shoot exactly the same number each round is tough, especially when it's a good score, par. So Gormley ran some numbers in that. And I didn't have time to run all the numbers of all 126 years, but just the numbers with the 2026 tournament. If you count all the 154 players that start, it's surprising it happened this quickly. If you just take the players, and if you control for Keith Mitchell, did something that nobody else did before, it seems about right that it took this long for somebody to shoot 4 consecutive even par rounds. So it's really weird when you think, this is something that should have been done plenty of times. No, it's really not crazy that it never happened before. It's just something.
So quick question. So that was all 4 rounds. Is it like 1,000,000 to 1 or 2,000,000 to 1 to get to par every hole?
It's zero.
Just out of the question.
It's zero. to put it in perspective,
1 in a trillion.
Yeah, which is zero. Because we're not going to be alive that long. Keith Mitchell, who shot even par in every round on Thursday, shot a 41 on the front 9 and a 29 on the back 9. So he had a lot of numbers that weren't pars. So it would be very rare.
You know what the statistical probability of me actually ever hitting even par in a round is? It's
0.
the same. 0.
Yeah. So, okay. So we'll talk about another subject that's going on right now. The World Cup soccer is going on. And last night, the United States beat Bosnia-Herzegovina. Great job. Good luck at it. Here's a weird number about soccer, okay? I don't understand the offsides rule in soccer, and I'm not alone in that. But I do understand math, so I figured I could understand some of the math in soccer. Kevin's team could score a goal in 45 plus 6 minutes, which the average person would think is 51. My team could score a goal in 49th minute. His goal is before mine. And that's because at the end of the half at 51, they do added minutes for injuries and all types of stuff. So that's how 51 is less than 49 in soccer. So
they add time for not injuries. They do the whole like writhing. Or I remember, let's see. So my Facebook memories came up, and there was this meme that was floating around probably a dozen years ago. So I guess 3 World Cups ago of like a sniper picking off things, and it's like a shot. And then like a guy's just like falling down, not being touched, and writhing on the ground. It's just like the red card from the player in that game. Of course, by this time it's 2 weeks ago. But it's like down on the pitch for 6 or 7 minutes, and then comes back 2 minutes later and is running around like nothing ever happened. So I call it the beautiful game. I've been to an MLS game. I announced soccer in high school. I got a yellow card announcing soccer in high school, but that's another show entirely. So I enjoy the game a little bit. I tell you what, the best viewing experience though is the World Cup on Telemundo, because you don't have to know a lick of Spanish to understand how exciting they can make a 1-0 or like a 0-0 game in the 85th minute. Benavides. I just think of the old FIFA on PlayStation back in the day too. So I do enjoy, from a broadcasting perspective, I enjoy putting on Telemundo in the background, and just when I hear the voice pick up, that's when you turn and look. So I've enjoyed the World Cup.
On a clear day, you can see college athletics. Can we do a quick update on, our three-part series? On a clear day, you can see college athletics.
Yeah, the update I'm going to bring you guys this month is about all the gambling that's going on about the Brandon Sorsby thing. Coach Prime, otherwise known as Deion Sanders, even said it's absurd that this is happening. The person should not be allowed to play. A judge thought it was okay. And, that's not one of these judges with blinders on. He must be a Texas Tech alumni.
He was a Texas Tech alumni.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big shock. Okay. So eventually, the Big 12, the NFL, and the Canadian Football League realized that the 1919 Black Sox and Pete Rose left a stain on the game they don't want to be any part of. So they said, this guy can't play in the thing. And I know a lot of people in that William and Mary Suite disagree with me and my opinions on Pete Rose. I don't think he should ever be in the Hall of Fame. There's a sign in the locker room every time you go to the game when you're a player saying, if you gamble, blah, 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 you'll be thrown out. Well, guess who's played in more Major League Baseball games than anybody else ever? Pete Rose. So he's read that sign a time or two. So,
And when he played in
hopefully
Montreal,
we
that
do.
sign was in French.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's but I do on the next slide, as you can see, I do put a famous Pete Rose picture there, him doing a head first dive. I did love him when he played on the Phillies.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Just it wasn't like he bet on 4 games or 5 games. It was
thousands.
it was
Yeah.
just an incredible amount of games he bet on, and including betting on his own team. But what I did understand was that he bet on his own team when he was redshirting. But still, he had a real issue, and I agree, he should not be able to play.
Yeah.
So now that's enough about that. We talked about it earlier. Why did you title this month's show, Why Does Rice Play Texas?
Yeah. Well, the topic of this much show is that cultural sports or college sports, excuse me, are a cultural and social phenomenon and far more than athletic competitions. Nowhere else in the world do you have anything equivalent with college sports. Okay. It's just an embedded way of our life. It's a big part of campus life, it's a big part of alumni life. Sadly, none of us have an alma mater to root for. Excuse me, Keystone. Kevin still has that. But Gormley and Bryant don't have their alma maters to root for, and one of Kevin's. So a lot of people are floating this idea, but my big thing is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. To go back and hit on once again, following Kennedy's speech, okay, Rice tied number 1 Texas a month later. Okay, since that time, Texas went 46-2 against Rice. To no one's surprise who knows the current thing. And they have not played since 2023. And you know why? Because of conference expansion, Texas jumped to join into the SEC and could not play these other games anymore. But it was a great thing. Texas, you have this, big campus school, hugely funded. And Rice is the second smallest 1A football school in the country and might have at the time been the smallest.
How about some other stats that show the difference between the NCAA championships and professional sport playoffs? Is there anything in those numbers that might make it so special?
Yeah, Kevin, good point. One thing that I think really makes wrestling go, and it keeps one of our co hosts, Jason, and another one co host, son, Brian, on their toes, is when we have 8 bouts going on at one time. And you really increase the probability of something exciting happening. Okay, now, when you consider the difference between March Madness and the NBA playoffs that just ended, okay, we have a graph here, a list in the round of 68, 64, 32, whatever, on slide 20, that shows you how many games are played. And if we go back to slide 20 there, okay, on Thursday and Friday, which lo and behold, we don't get to see because we're watching the better sport, wrestling, okay, at the NCAA tournament. There are 16 games on Thursday and 16 games on Friday. In other words, 4 start at noon, 4 start at 3, or, within time increments there. So there's always something exciting going on. Okay. And then, of course, there's less as the tournament progresses as you go through. Okay. On slide 21, you can see in 20 days, the NCAA wraps up its whole tournament. Okay. With 67 games because there's 68 teams. The NBA takes 67 days to have 20 teams settle it because all of the rounds are best of 7 except for the play-in. So college has this unique, compact thing that's really special. And everybody's been in a pool about who's going to win the March Madness, right? Has anybody ever been in an NBA one? I mean, is there such a thing? Okay.
I think I gave up on the NBA as I aforementioned Orlando Magic fan growing up, and the reason it was pre-Shaq, so it was like when they're an expansion team. I think I was in the 5th grade, really got into sports, and them and the T-Wolves came in that year. The year before it was the Charlotte Hornets and Miami Heat, and it was on TNT, and sports kid watches sports, and then I think it was my sophomore year in high school. The Magic got swept out of the NBA Finals by the Houston Rockets. Nick Anderson missed 4 free throws late in the 4th quarter. I had a Nick Anderson jersey. Blew 4 straight free throws. Any one of them would have iced the game. Coming down, Vernon Maxwell hits a half-court shot to send it into overtime in Game 1. That was pretty much the end of the series because the Magic then got swept out. I remember Christy Diggs from the girls basketball team at Pocosin High School just ragging me nonstop the rest of the school year. And that was pretty much. And then when Shaq left the Magic, I was kind of done with the NBA. So I tried to watch the T-Wolves here a little bit, but being a Minnesota professional sports fan only leads you to disappointment. So I decided not to really invest my time in any professional sports team in Minnesota because it's just going to be a disappointment. Save 87 and 91, and if you're a WNBA fan, with the Lynx, and the PWHL with the Minnesota Frost. So it's women's pro sports. That's all that's winning in this state right now.
Okay, thank you for
Nick
that.
Anderson? Do you still have the Nick Anderson shirt?
No, but I do have an Orlando Magic practice jersey that I think my mom sent me on Earth. I might sell it on eBay because some of those vintage things from the 90s, they're vintage from the 90s. Go figure. They're going I sold a San Jose Sharks shirt for $50. I think I got it for $12 at like Legends at Patrick Henry Mall when I was in 8th grade or something.
Yeah. Okay. So now we just talked about basketball. Let's compare NCAA baseball with the Major League Baseball. Okay. NCAA has 64 teams that they start out with at 16 different regionals, 4 schools each regional. You have 16 regionals going on simultaneously, 2 games a day at each regional. There's so much action going on. The NCAA takes 25 days to settle from when they announce this, when the 64 starts till the champion. Major League Baseball took 33 days to have 12 teams settle it. Okay. And another neat thing about the College World Series, it's been in Omaha since 1950 with 8 teams, which is a pretty cool thing. To give you another comparison, when the Vols won the baseball title in 24, all their playoff games were in 2 locations, either on Rocky Top or Omaha. They had 1 trip to make. When the Texas Rangers won the Major League Baseball title in 23, they were 4 different locations, 7 trips to make. So it's really difficult to follow it. You have to have days off for travel. It's really a different can of worms. And once again, it's something unique to America, the NCAA sport.
And when the record, the college baseball and college softball postseasons are phenomenal. They're amazing, and kudos to ESPN for their round the clock coverage. They got the quad box stream if you're on the plot. I mean, it's just you don't have to be a college softball or college baseball fan to really just absorb it, and it's one thing that college softball did something really smart about a decade and a half ago. They shifted their season to not overlap with the men's college World Series. So as the women's college World Series is ending, baseball's regionals are starting. So you've got a full month and change of nonstop, sport played on, with crushed clay and grass. So you've got, and because baseball fans will watch softball and vice versa, you get your casual viewer there because the sports are very similar. And that was one thing that I've been pushing the NCAA to do is shift the women's season so it's not their postseason championships, their crown jewel. We just had the first NCAA championship, doesn't sit on college conference weekend. So think about that from a wrestling fan perspective. We get the NAIAs, then Division II and Division III simultaneously, and Division I, then the NCAA this year was a week after. You get a month of postseason. You get the conference tournaments the same weekend as the NAIA. You get wall-to-wall wrestling stuff. Now think about if we did that with the women and pushed them back to where the schedules all aligned, like ESPN did with softball and baseball. How much more wrestling could we watch? How many more wrestling events could the high school kids be exposed to? So that's another side tangent for another time. I just want to make sure give softball and baseball credit for breaking the formula and making it work.
Sure.
Okay. So, but one of the things we've talked about this, a lot of times, and conference expansion is going on, has been going on with consolidate. What are some of the unintended consequences of the conference expansion in D1?
Sure. Like recently, Kevin, Oklahoma and Texas joined the SEC, and the four schools joined the Big Ten. And it seemed like the media loved it and said, oh, now they're better conferences. They have more teams and stuff like that. Yeah, they do have more teams now. I don't have anything against Texas and Oklahoma. Well, I have something against Texas. They don't have a wrestling team. Okay. Oklahoma has one wrestling team. They need two. Okay. But I'm sure it's going to be a really neat situation playing them in football. I went to the Tennessee-Oklahoma game this year. However, then you lose rivalries. Like the Vols no longer play the Gators every year. And on the screen, we have examples of what's happening. Oklahoma-Nebraska, which was the game every year when we were kids, that's gone. Pitt, West Virginia, USC, the one out west of Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Oregon State, Michigan State. They don't play each other every year anymore. Those are all teams in the same state, the tail end of what I just listed there. It's changing something drastically for something that sounded good to some people late at night one night. Okay.
To the same organization that I just gave credit for, for college baseball and softball.
Yeah.
Television spots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the next slide just,
TV money is the whole
yeah.
bugaboo for the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point, Kevin. I'd like, for example, like the next slide says the Vols play Texas this year. It's going to be neat. Arch Manning playing against his uncle's alma mater in Rocky Top. But there's going to be big TV money for that game. There's always been big TV money for the Tennessee-Florida game. So it's not like they're making more money, right? It's just a different opponent. So,
yeah,
and it takes.
And one thing with the conference expansion, let's go back to that school in Norfolk when they moved up to FBS and joined Conference USA. Back in the day, you'd grow up and you'd be arguing with Richmond alums and JMU alums and William and Mary alums, and you'd have that local rivalry. You could go to a sports bar and you'd sit there and start arguing with a JMU alum about the round ball game. Well, then they go into, 1 year was it with JMU and William and Mary were, I think, in the national semis in 1AA when it was still called that. So I remember watching a game. It's at school in Norfolk against UTEP, and that's a conference game. I'm like, El Paso, Texas borders Mexico. Norfolk, Virginia is on the Elizabeth River, which empties into the Strait of Hampton Roads, which is into the Atlantic Ocean. Like, those two teams are not in the same universe geographically. They should not be in the same conference. And that also, we've mentioned this on other shows about the finances, that puts a strain on your women's soccer program, your tennis programs, because now all their costs have increased because of two sports and the multimedia rights holders agreement. So those sports suffer, and it looks bad on them as an expense, but they didn't make the move. So again, that's another tangent about the consequences. Is the regional rivalries are gone? Now the Sun Belt, which is where that school in Norfolk is. Okay, they're in there with Marshall and JMU and App State and Coastal Carolina. That's a more geographic, but there's no historical rivalries with Coastal and Marshall. You have to go back decades and decades to where even grandparents don't remember playing Marshall in certain sports. So it's really disrupted. As a diehard college sports fan, I love college sports more than I love professional sports, which is a big topic of this show. It's taken a lot of that banter out. How much trash can you talk against a guy from Louisiana Tech? I mean, really? Like,
Yeah.
what are the folks in Harrisonburg? They're gonna dog on the people from Ruston. There's no natural, shade there. It's almost, you got to contrive it. You got to find a coach in a press conference to create some type of stuff. So what I even with said alma mater being dead to me, those fans suffer because the rivalries are they're not drawing like they did. Attendance is down at some of these places where the regional rivalries have disappeared. So it affects everything.
Yeah, it takes generations to build a rivalry. It doesn't happen overnight. Okay, next one.
All right. Along with that, we've lost the rivalries, and the college football has the playoff expansion. What is there? What are the I don't say I think not is there. What are the downsides to the current expansion of the CFP? And are
Sure.
we at a point where big time TV events and select sports are the cart leading the horse?
Okay, the college football expansion just went to 12 2 years ago. We've only seen it for 2 years. But this is something I was trying to explain to all my buddies here on Rocky Top. Okay, we have not hosted one of those first round games yet, sadly. But when you have a game in December, okay, and we might be in the South, but it's not warm here in December. Okay, it's cold. Not as cold as it is in Minnesota or Michigan or Ohio.
Oh,
But
it's cold in Tennessee. Wah.
okay, my point being, it's a good comeback. My point being that those tailgates are not going to be the same because of the climate. Okay, and 40,000 college students are going to be locked out of their dorms. Okay, so they're not going to be around. How in the world did 30,000 Tennessee fans get tickets at the Horseshoe at Ohio State? Ohio State's crazy about football and always has been and always will be. But people had plans to go somewhere for Christmas or whatever, or the students couldn't make it because the dorm was closed. So it's really changing something from what was, right there in person to a TV event. And then, right now, when the schedule is for all the regular season games, you have no idea who's going to make the playoffs, where it'll be, what bowl game you'll have to travel to. Where in the old days, with the bowl games, not the football bowl games, the playoff bowl games, but the regular bowl games, you had a month to prepare where to go. So it's definitely changing that. Um, there's even talk about the Army Navy game not being on the weekend by itself. There's talk about losing the conference championship games, which now, of course, that Rutgers is in the same conference with Washington. They're not backyard rivals, but the old days they were, yeah, yeah, they were more regional rivalries too. So my bottom line on the college football playoff thing is since the 70s, I've been an SEC guy and a Tennessee guy and then a William and Mary guy. Okay. So I know what games I want to watch right now. I don't need a playoff committee of 13, all know it people telling me what game to watch. I'm fine with what I watch. Okay. So that's my thoughts on the college football playoff. Next slide, Kevin.
Okay. But so college football playoffs you know, do not seem to be a really good thing. We were in the suite this year, and some of the guys were saying we should have, with the NIL, blah blah blah. Maybe we should have big time college sports be like minor league baseball. Does that make any sense, or is that just beer talk?
Okay. First of
Depends
all,
on
I
how,
love
how heavy the beer is. Are you drinking Diet Coors or are you
No,
drinking the
IPAs.
9% IPAs? You know, that
so
makes a difference.
yeah. So first of all, I'm a huge minor league baseball fan. I love it. But minor league baseball is what minor league baseball is. And in my mind, NCAA sports are what they are. Now, just a quick primer on what minor league baseball is. Okay. Minor league baseball has 5 levels. Okay. AAA, AA, high A, low A, rookie. Each major league franchise has one team in each level. And they try to do them regionally, like I have a Reading Phillies hat on that's AA Phillies. And the reason Phillies have their team in Reading is because it's an hour and a half from Philly. Okay. So they try to do that regionally. Okay. Players can be called up or sent down at sole discretion of the parent club. All right. So there's 120 minor league baseball teams affiliated directly with Major League Baseball. Okay. 30 AAA, 30 AA, etc. In football, there's 133 teams in the FBS and 68 are Power 4. How the heck are you going to determine what franchise gets what school? Okay. Like maybe the Jets will get Rutgers and they'll be the Jets forever. Okay. And the Atlanta Falcons get Georgia, Bama, Auburn, and all of a sudden they're winning the Super Bowl every year. You know, so the numbers just don't add up, guys. Okay. The next slide, you can see what I just mentioned about 30 in each situation. Now, let's just say they were tied. College football became a minor league concept. Okay? The Ohio State feeds to the Cleveland Browns and Michigan feeds to the Detroit Lions, geographically, right? Well, the Lions and the Browns will love that because neither one's ever been to a Super Bowl. Okay? But let's just say Michigan's scheduled to play the Ohio State, which they are every Saturday after Thanksgiving at noon. Okay.
Poor Ernest Biner.
Yep.
That's
The
all I'm going to
quarterback-
say.
the quarterback for Cleveland Browns gets hurt the week before. Well, they call up the quarterback from the Ohio State University the week of the Michigan game. How do you think gamblers were like that? Okay. How do you think all the alumni were like that? It would be a disaster. Okay. And the Patriots might never make another Super Bowl. With there's not many. Is Boston College?
Boston College.
Yeah. BC's not going to do it. BU dropped
Yeah.
football. Northeastern dropped football. UMass is just atrocious. Anyway, yeah. So to right now, I think this is a lot of the beer talking, right? Is that
Yeah.
where we're coming
IPA.
And think about this. Let's just say the Cleveland Browns, demote somebody to Ohio State. Then they demote him to Toledo is their AA team. Okay. So that kid's got to go to college that he probably doesn't want to go to school.
They're not going to class, Glenn.
Then
They're not going to class.
Yeah, of course.
They didn't go like Terrell Pryor. Was it Cardale Jones? I didn't come here to play school. That's where we're at anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to beat
But
up
you see what I'm
the
saying?
Buckeyes too much.
You can't.
Well-
Or if you're a kid that's at Toledo and you want to get better, then all of a sudden you're pulled up to the Ohio State and you have to transfer classes mid-semester. I mean,
They're not going to class.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So we already went through the call-up situation. Just so you guys know, Major League Baseball, you can see on slide 38, is the one that pays the players. Okay? The salaries, the signing bonuses, they pay for facilities and travel costs because then they control you. They sign your check. Now, slide 39, this is before signing bonuses, which the big, bonus babies get. But a yearly pay for a rookie player is 20,000. For AAA, it's 37,000 a year. Okay? You guys have all seen the NIL stuff that people are getting in college sports, which would be the functional AAA. Good luck getting somebody to take that much of a pay cut. Good luck. Okay?
Yeah,
So,
even when it wasn't under the table.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And major league minor league wages have been raised recently. And what they did was they cut 40 minor league teams out of the system. Okay, the Appy League's an example. The New York Penn League's another example. So all of a sudden we'd have situations. Why did they cut the things? Because the major league franchises didn't want to pay the other guys more, so it was a wash for them. Okay, so
That's
I
how the
don't
St.
see.
Paul Saints ended up being the AAA affiliate for the Minnesota Twins. They were in the it was
Northern
I don't
League.
even remember the name of the league. It was the Northern League, and then
Northern
they
League.
changed, and then I think the Northwoods League is the name of the college wooden bat league that's out here with like the Mankato Moondogs and the St. Cloud Rocks and the Duluth Huskies, but like the Coastal Plain League's college wooden bat league, and where the Pilots play. So there was a lot of contraction there, and franchises moved. So to your point earlier, Jake Cave, who was from Hampton, Virginia, his dad Bryant was the baseball coach at the Newport News Apprentice School, where I announced baseball at War Memorial Stadium for a college team when I was in high school. His son Jake made the majors, was playing for the Twins, but he was bouncing between the Saints and the Twins. Well, they put him in an apartment in Maple Grove, so in a suburb. So when he had to go Triple A's over here, he gets called up. He doesn't have to move, and this is a part of that regionalization. We're also seeing it in minor league hockey, where the West Coast teams were moving their ECHL affiliates and AHL affiliates, shifting ownership around. Because for a while, I think the Admirals were, for a long time, they were a Caps affiliate. And then now they were with Tampa Bay for a while, and then there were some ownership places to where I think their franchise moved to Bakersfield, and then they replaced a new Admirals in their place. So it's not just minor league baseball that's set up their minor leagues. It's happening in professional hockey as well. With teams are regionally close, so like we get a call up, you don't have to fly them across the country. As much as I hate the fact that the Tides are an Orioles affiliate, because I can't stand the Baltimore Orioles. It made sense. I mean, they were a Mets affiliate. Yeah, you could get on JetBlue and be up in New York in an hour, but that's what you get flying JetBlue. So the regionalization definitely makes sense. But that contraction, that's one thing people forget about is there once were a lot more minor league teams. I know so many people end up coming through playing rookie ball and low A or high in Pulaski, Virginia, of all places. So
I've been to
anybody
many
say,
games there.
Virginia, I was in Pulaski. I was like, let me guess, you played baseball. Boom, there's the tie. So that contraction led to a whole complete changeover. Now we're at 6 game series in AAA. The Omaha Storm Chasers will come in here to play the St. Paul Saints. It's a Tuesday to Sunday series. Monday you travel. It's wild.
You mentioned Pulaski, Virginia. I've been to some games there. And the one time the person working the concession stand was the mayor of Pulaski. So it's a small town America. Guys, as you can see on we're going to slide 44. Don't base your life decisions on ideas you get in a bar. Okay? As a former bar owner, I've heard so many great ideas at 2 a.m. by a college kid. The girl of his dreams left with somebody else, and then he started spouting great ideas. And Monday he wakes up and he says, they're not good ideas. I don't see any reason that any of the decision makers, the NFL, college sports, or the players would want to do a minor league concept. Okay? So it is what it is, guys. If the guy with a brain injury is the voice of reasoning in the We Marry Luxury Suite, perhaps other people need to take pause of their ideas on the minor league situation.
I think like Jason said, though, we need to get off the IPAs and go to a low calorie beer.
Yes.
Might help.
And I know they're not sponsoring the show, and but I do have a Fargo brewery that I represent, and so yesterday I was at Surly up here in Minneapolis, and we were watching soccer with a buddy and having some IPAs. We had so many great ideas that
Yeah.
let's just say they just stayed out there on the patio.
Yes. Let's go to slide 47 here.
Arnold Bennett said, any change, even a change for the better, is always accompanied by drawbacks and discomforts. Can you summarize the drawbacks of changing college sports so drastically? And are the changes we are making and the proposals, are they for the better?
Okay. We run the risk of changing college sports to an unrecognizable entity. Okay. The conference realignment has already knocked out many historic rivalries. Adding more college football games is going to drastically dilute the regular season game day experience. And there's no way college sports can have a minor league baseball scenario. Okay?
Agreed.
Matt Stats is concerned what happens to Olympic sports, mainly wrestling with all this new stuff. Okay? Stanford's closest ACC rival that we mentioned on a past show is Pitt, over 2,600 miles away. Because Cal's also in the ACC, but they don't have wrestling, nor does SMU. Shame on Cal and SMU. Okay. What may be good for football and basketball and TV execs might not be good for Olympic sports. Okay. Now, anytime this is a thing for wrestling guys or swimmers or lacrosse players, track runners, you read about changes, and it all sounds good from the media personality who just wants to go to big time college football, and his office is in Boston. He wants to get flown to Phoenix in December where it's warm down there at the company's nickel. Okay, ask yourself this question when you read the changes: how does it affect wrestling? All right. A lot of these things might sound good, but how does it affect wrestling? That what concerns me the most.
And it's not good.
It's not good. Correct. So before you give Gormley, Hazard, Bryant any idea about this, well, Bryant won't be in the suite because he's kind of busy during nationals. But it's any time you give Hazard or Gormley an idea, I want you to have thought, how will this affect wrestling before you give it to me? Okay, Kevin, hit us with your Kev's notes.
Okay, I'm trying to imagine wrestling as a minor league sport, and how would we do that? Well,
I don't want
to. Well,
I don't want to
yeah.
put it out of your
Yeah.
mind.
Number one, college sports are uniquely an American tradition. Number two, Keith Mitchell became the first person in the 126-year history of the U.S. Open in golf to shoot exactly par for every round. And statistically, the chance of shooting par, 4 even par rounds are pretty much zero. Number three, in yet another case where the U.S. court system intruded on college sports, a Texas judge, let's make that clear, a Texas Tech judge issued a temporary injunction allowing Brendan Sorsby to play college football in 2026. After vehement pushback by the NCAA, the Big 12, and pro sports, Sorsby dropped his lawsuit. Subsequently, the NFL scathingly rejected his application for the supplemental draft. Number four, President Kennedy asked, why does Rice play Texas? Compare it to the seemingly at the time impossible task of putting a man on the moon. Interestingly enough, Rice tied number one Texas 14-14 a month after Kennedy's speech. Number five, college basketball and baseball playoff schedule is way more compressed than the equivalent pro playoff schedule. Six, an inordinate amount of historic annual rivalries in college football have been lost due to the conference and CFP playoff expansion. Number seven, for well over a century, college sports have been mainly an in-person fan experience. It's becoming more and more a TV event and totally driven by money. Number eight, with the advent of NIL and rev share money, there are many fans that desire college sports to be like a minor league baseball concept. Can you really imagine a college quarterback being called up to the NFL during the college playoff run? Number 9, a lot of college players would take a huge pay cut if it was like minor league baseball. And last, number 10, the minor league baseball concept would never work without destroying college traditions.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin and Jason, you guys have anything else to say before I wrap it up?
Yeah. How about naming your William and Mary box the Greenleaf? Because that's how all these things come up. Very simple. I mean, I'm sure nobody's going to bat. And I was like, the old, Gorms wants to put the Greenleaf logo on their shirt for the William and Mary box. Hey, the ideas that came out of the Leaf, well, it's the Leaf 2.0 at the tournament. Why not give that a shot? So, no, I thought the concept was interesting to flesh out. So, whether or not it had any legs, that's not the point. We put some numbers behind it. We put some theory behind it. So, again, I think my big takeaway is you name the box the Greenleaf. How about that?
I like it.
Thank you for that little pitch there, Jason. I appreciate it.
Put it on the shirts. You could put it on the shirts.
Yeah. So anyway,
Stevie's doing the shirts this year, right?
Yeah, Stevie's the champ. So anyway, guys, the next episode will be after the convention. The three of us are going to be at the convention, so we'll get some input from some of the coaches and stuff. But we're going to get into explore the financial situation of college athletics. The fiscal year closes for all colleges June 30th, which was just a couple days ago. So we should have some numbers by the time we wrap it up for the next show. So
I got something, though. If you're going to be at the convention, coaches that watch this or attendees, vendors, whatnot. So MatStats will have a table again in the exhibitor area. I'm going to bring the gear. I'll be in Baltimore. Then I'm going to head up to Boston for a vacation week, see a BTS concert, which is a K-pop band, go to Ben & Jerry's up in Vermont, go to a Red Sox game, go to Cape Cod. But in Baltimore, at the table, I want you to think of a couple things. I want you to think of your favorite wrestling stat. Your favorite stat about the sport of wrestling that you know or you think you know and you want us to vet it. So that way we can come up with some social media clips and also sit down and do some interviews from right there at the table. You can knock Glenn some questions his way. Say, hey, we're going to come up with some show topics organically out of the convention, but I want to hear what's your favorite wrestling stat. I put together this Fargo Almanac every year. You can get it at mattalkonline.com/Fargo because that's going to be going on by the time you watch this show, or it's going on as you're watching this show. It's all the stats that come out of that. Those are the things that somebody comes up with a thing at the media table. Hey, what about this? Gene Lee, who was like a team leader for Illinois for years. What about all the old team scores? I built the team scores. So those types of questions lead to topics. They lead to publications. The NCAA preview guide, a lot of that stuff comes from the readers, and people think, hey, when was the last time this? And guess what? It ends up in something that we can then refer to. So think about what you got at NWCA MatStats. If you can't be there, give us some homework assignments. Give us something that we want, that you think the wrestling, this is exactly like this show. This was a topic that came out of the Greenleaf box, and that's what we're calling it. The Greenleaf box. Give us those questions, and if you've got something that you want to stump us with, I'm all ears. Glenn's all ears. Kevin's all head and ears. We can make this happen at the convention in Baltimore.
Thank you for saying that, Jason. Great idea. And guys, we hope to see you guys at the convention. If not, we'll see you next month. Same Matt time, same Matt channel.